that's quite an interesting perspective. And now differentiation often starts with product strength. And in your case, I think endpoint security is your core pillar for you, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, it's your flagship product, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can you explain its unique value proposition and how it has evolved to stay ahead of evolving threats?
We claim that we have the largest malware research lab in the region. And the core proposition in endpoint security is the job to be done is provided security, right? So because we have this strong research lab and the largest, with I think the last 30 years, the one great thing that founders have really visualized when we started this journey itself is, let's have that database that's always going to be active. Right? The database that they built 30 years back continues to grow with the new malwares that we identified. So that's a unique strength that many may not have, even the new edge products. Right? Because it's also important that you understand what was that malware 10 years back, 20 years back. And we saw that a couple of years back when one of the malware Experio was a transformation of what we saw in some late 90s, right? So I think that definitely gives a lot of strength in our conversations with the customers. Right? We have a strong malware research lab. We have a great set of people working in this lab trying to provide the protection proactively, right, before something happens. I think we have been actively involved when the Operation Sindoor. I think some of our reports are public. Mm-hmm. We are involved in the Commonwealth, including the IOJA consecration. And this all happened only because, the setup within the India sees, we bring that strength, right? So one is that from the job to be done, which is the production. The second is, I think we understand the India customer needs, right? So we have grown from consumer to small, medium, and now with the large, right? So the small, medium cannot afford to have, different products for different requirements, right? So they look at, can you solve me some of my IT requirements, some of my endpoint security requirements? So I think that bundling that we did, which actually adds that value, right? India is definitely price conscious, value conscious.
Right.
So the way that we were able to build that some features within the product, I think that definitely helps the customers in terms of not worrying about, I have to talk to multiple people to protect my systems or get an assurance of my security posture. So that's a journey, and not that you have everything in place, but as we see customers, we understand customers, work with them closer. I think we keep enhancing the key flagship product.
So just it takes me to another question. As you spoke about the low and medium-sized enterprises. Can you walk me through, if for instance, if I am a small and a medium enterprise company, what kind of value or the price point the conscious Indian buyer looks at that Quick Heal and Seqrite offers?
You're asking the price? I can't say that. Only the sales guy can say that, right? But if you're asking in terms of the value props, I think typically if you take a small medium business, they would have a router to get the traffic inside. Then they probably might have a firewall to allow or not allow. Then at the end, they have some endpoints, right? Your laptops, desktops, mobile, etc. Right? And on those, you want to put restrictions, right? You want to put a restriction. You want to know which are managed, unmanaged, which means, probably you think you have a laptop from office, but you don't have any controls in terms of the websites that you can access, the software that you can install, right? They're all those unmanaged, right? So this gives a visibility of what are all the assets that you have or assets that are there in a desktop or a laptop, the endpoint, right? Second, I think there is nothing called, in security world, there is nothing called 100% perfection, right? So that's who's able to catch first, right? Whether it is a thief or the attacker or the OEM like us, the protector, right? So continuous vulnerability scanning, right? So typically organizations end up buying a separate product for scanning those attacks, right? Exploits that might be there. Right? So one of the research that we did and published is very recently. This is the stuff, but we were able to identify a few 0 days, which means 0 vulnerabilities before a vulnerability is identified in a product. We were able to surface, right, to the world. Right? The only way that it can happen is when there is a continuous innovation, when there is a continuous research that's happening, a continuous understanding of the threat landscape. So yeah, I think these are some of those continuous differentiators that we are doing in terms of helping the small medium, rather than worrying about, I need to buy a vulnerability scanner, I need to buy asset management, and so on and so forth.
It's like a one-stop shop, and you are giving them packages. So if you look at a breakup of your customers in India per se, how will be the live in terms of the low and medium enterprises and the large scale enterprises, if I may ask so?
I wouldn't be able to put a percentage.
Definitely, okay.
But yeah, I think today we are definitely a key player in the small medium business, right? But we are also very fastly growing in terms of the large enterprises. So we work with some of the large government enterprises, some of the large private sector organizations, some of the digital natives, the large digital natives that are there. So yeah, I think it's difficult to split. But yeah, I think it's not that we are going to ignore small, medium, or going to only operate in large enterprises, or we'll be focused. I think we have that scalable to what the market requirements kind of a product. So that way we can operate in different market segments.
That's interesting, actually. And as you mentioned, you have been working with the government very closely, and you're all already on the Zoho kind of thing. So you're in the preferred space. That's interesting to know. So can I say, like in the cybersecurity space, Quickheal will be, the partner for government, the Indian government, if I may say so?
No, we work. I know in few states that we have a good understanding. We definitely have almost 90 to 100% presence. Even with the state government or the federal setup, there are a lot of organizations that use our products today. So while the market campaign of Zoho may not be there today for us, but yeah, I think we work very, very closely with the government. In fact, very closely with CERT, and they definitely look forward to us if there are those situations. There are a lot of public announcements that CERT talked about it. There is also Cybersecurity website. I think we are one of those contributors. So our interest is not just build for someone to buy, but also have that social responsibility in terms of what is that we could add value through awareness, and what is that we could make it available so that they don't have to necessarily spend for everything.
And that's great to know. I have been, I saw a lot of your announcements recently, and you have been associated very closely with the government and various CSR initiatives. So that's nice, actually. Yeah, it's like cybersecurity for all kind of thing, which is very much required in India today. Now, coming to my next question, Lalit, it's like innovation. As you already touched upon the R&D part when in your last previous response, actually. So I wanted to, like innovation is a big player today, right? It plays a big role, in fact, today. So how does Seqrite, focus or prioritize innovation and allocate R&D investments, especially when it comes to zero trust security as well as anti-fraud technologies?
So, one thing that I feel very proud is being in the domain of cybersecurity. The key reason is the innovation is the key. I think this is one domain where research that might be happening in a academic setup, or the research that might be going in a industry, are not very far away, right? So wherever if there is a cutting edge way of detecting a malware, or a cutting edge way of creating a malware, I think we definitely need to have in the product. So innovation is one of the key mantras from detection protection perspective. Second is the features, right? My role as a product manager is always looking at where are those differentiators, how do we create that experience for that customer, so that they really see the value in it. So it's in our products, in our DNA, right? Now, if your question is on zero trust, anti-fraud, we all know, right? Zero trust security is one framework. It's not a product, right? Zero trust security is more of a framework or a concept on which you build products. Right? So We definitely, our endpoint security is one of those pillars in the zero trust framework that fits in. We also have an offering which is zero trust network access, because we know what is required from the endpoint security really well, but we also have something which is more on the network access. So today we have customers who think that they have firewall and they get some free VPN, but if you go do some little Google search, or probably use some GPTs, you will realize the number of vulnerabilities that are coming on VPNs, right? And our organization has really thought through saying that, yeah, if you have to be innovative, if you have to be looking forward, yeah, it's not just that VPN access that you can let the small, medium business organizations fit in, right? That's where some zero trust network access would be required, which is also part of that entire zero trust security framework, right? Yeah, I think the threat research that we do is again part of that innovation. We also have that XDR, which is again in the direction of that visibility, which is another part of the zero trust security framework pillars. Right now, if your question is anti-fraud, I think they're a little different. But what is also changing is cybersecurity is not just the security of data, right? It's also how people are making money out of the data, which is from the fraud perspective, right? Cyber and fraud are definitely going almost hand in hand, and that's obvious, at least in the at individual level, right? The number of digital arrests that we are hearing scarily, the number of cyber frauds that are happening at citizen level, this is really some mind-boggling numbers, right? So I think the anti-fraud is definitely one of those innovations that we did, which is a very unique proposition, not just the virus, but also the virus protection, but also the fraud protection, which is around social engineering, around the fake calls that might come, around the probably you don't know what you're accessing as links and what is getting into your mobile phone, right? So I think that's definitely a key differentiator that we did last year, and I think that ability to put cyber and fraud together in our Seqrite labs is probably one key differentiator that I can see in the market. There are very, very few players that I know who are playing in the cyber and the fraud. So yeah, that definitely, I would say, is something that has come into the DNA of, let's continuously innovate in the organization.
Great. At least you're bringing it together and kind of addressing this bigger challenge which is existing now in the industry. Now, speaking of innovation, Dalit, it's great to know, and I would love to know what's next on the product front, actually. So can you share any insights on, any new upcoming product or enhancement in the current, endpoint security suite that you have, actually, especially that will redefine enterprise security?
So
happy with what you've made right now, and it's absolutely servicing the audience and it's addressing all their challenges.
No, I as a product manager, if I'm happy with what I have, then I don't have a role, right? So it's a journey, right? So and it will go through like any other product life cycle. So while it will be not appropriate for me to share what is a new product coming out, but I think we are definitely betting big in terms of data privacy.
You just put a teaser.
Yeah. Sure. I don't want the investors to look into it. So, but yeah, I think one is the cyber fraud. The second is the privacy angle that we got in. I think the DPDP Act that's coming in India, right? I mean, the Act is out, so everyone is eagerly looking at when the rules will be enforced, right? So, security, fraud, privacy. I think that's really a strong combination that we are able to bring in. So data privacy, we have a product, right? So we call it a Seqrite data privacy, which takes care of understanding the data landscape that organization has and provides that consent. So I, as a individual customer, want to get or do not want to get some newsletters or marketing content. I want to know what my data is, right? I want to revoke what my preferences or update my preferences in terms of campaigns that might come to me. So which is very important, right? For a consent, because you don't know which one is the right email from an organization or probably something spoofed, right? So the consent framework is another offering that we have in the data privacy. And I think there are a lot of ideas that are also coming in terms of how do we make more of AI, right? So privacy, data, AI, I think there are so intertwined in terms of what it can happen, not happen. One of the recent launches that we also did is SIA, which is Seqrite Intelligent Assistant, which is our answer in terms of the virtual assistant. So we are definitely looking at what is that we could do more SOC automation from innovation perspective. That way, I think we definitely need to involve humans. But do we need to involve for something that the machine can understand, learn, and only involve or trigger alerts only for cases where human would be required? I think is another exciting work that we are doing within this setup. So SIA at some day will have a 2.0, and that will be definitely much grander than what we have today.
Coming back to the DPDP product that Seqrite has, you have come up with, can you throw some more light on it? It must be definitely an industry agnostic product, and how far it can help, especially the small and medium enterprises, to kind of abide to all the DPDP, policies and adhere to it. Actually, how will it enable them and help them? To what extent, if I may ask so? Though I know the DPDP Act is still not in action, it's still people are waiting to contemplate and understand. But still, since you have a product, so how far it will help your customers?
Yeah, I think the rules, from my understanding, also might be more expecting from the large enterprises or medium large enterprises, not necessarily from the small medium businesses, because their exposure of data, or if something goes wrong, the impact to the end users might be a little different than large enterprises having data breaches.
Very true.
Not having the full control and taking something for granted, right? So while this product can serve both small, medium, large enterprises, I think from a rules or the way that organizations might adopt might be first large and then slowly into the small, medium. So as an example, I think everyone visits websites, and probably today every organization pretty much has a website, and sometimes that organizations are also looking at ways that they can put cookies to enhance your experience.
Yes.
Put cookies to understand who you are, and then accordingly do campaigns, right? So I think if I'm visiting a website, I think it's important for me to know what I'm getting into, right? So cookie consent is definitely something that might be valuable for all sizes of the organization, whether small, medium, or large. So I think knowing the landscape of what data I have, small organizations may already know because their IT setup is limited. But I think large enterprises have data, multiple systems, multiple formats, in different geographical units, in different services in terms of cloud, SaaS, on-prem. So I think their challenges would be much different, right? Which might not be applicable for all these small, medium businesses. So I think it'll be interesting to see what the rules come out. But my view is, I think it'll start with large and then slowly small enterprises will start adopting it.
And the product that you have developed from the DPDP perspective will definitely be a great help for the large enterprises in terms of adhering.
Yeah, it's a scalable solution irrespective of whether it is a small setup or a large enterprise setup. But what we are trying to do is take that compliance, while there are global products, take that compliance of India DPDP Act and make sure that we have that cookie cutter kind of a setup for the Indian DPDP Act for the large enterprises.
That's great. So we all will wait, watch and see how, yes. And the market is, I'm sure, flooded with products till then. Yes. So you'll have a tough competition, but definitely you have a market leadership there. So definitely, and the brand name. So it will definitely help actually. But yes, I'm sure there are too many players right now who are coming up with the products in terms from the DPDP perspective, and vendors as well. Now, coming to my another question, Lalit, is from the broader vision of the company. So, in terms of where the company is heading towards, so are you looking at capturing the Indian market completely? Though I know you have you hold a major part of in terms of the share and the leadership, but are you also aiming at the global leadership? And how does this impact your product strategy and marketing strategy?
Yeah, we want to be made in India for the globe. That's definitely our interest to make that bigger impact. So I think knowing the competition, knowing the markets is definitely part of my role, and understanding, working with sales, marketing to see what those geographies that we can um, focus, and how do we make that fine tuning to the product, right? So um, I think, will it impact my product development marketing strategy? I think, from geographical setup to the kind of market segment that we want to play in that setup. Um, what is that feature that might be required, or enhancements, changes that might be required? What that campaigns need to be done? How do we collaborate with the locals? What is that we could do from India? I think, I think a lot of things are in progress. A lot of things will continue to be in progress. But the appetite and the ability to become global leader definitely exists within the organization. So both our founders as well as the leadership that we have are definitely very high quality. That gives a lot of confidence in terms of how we can make some bets, growing faster, bigger, and larger.
So great. So it's a very you have answered it very beautifully. So India will remain a key focus. At the same time, with the aspirations and the great aspiration, the great leadership that you have, a very strong leadership. You are also looking at the global market as well. So yes, so both are going to be possible in short run. We'll be seeing that. That's interesting to know. So so now, while we are talking about the global strategy, Lalit, also international policies play a very huge role in shaping a company's focus in terms, right? Now, coming to my next question is like how has this recent H-1B visa impact on the US? Kind of shaped or influenced Seqrite's basically the product strategy or the talent acquisition, or I may say the expansion plans internationally. Because I'm sure everybody has been a bit of shaken up. So, what is your take on it?
I was expecting some US related or America related question will come.
Yes, it's like unavoidable at the moment. So yes.
So I think H1B. We do not do any resource deployments in different geographies, right? For it is the US. So we'll try to look at the local talent and see what is that we could do with the partners there, rather than necessarily taking people from here and pushing it. That way, I think for an organization per se, it has nothing that bothers. But what actually is good for us is, I think the Indian talent has definitely Indian fastly growing, exciting companies in India that they can also start focusing. So I wouldn't say anything negative, but I think it also makes some of the people who are aspiring to go out look at internally and join exciting companies like us. So one way, probably good for us.
It's a great opportunity and an advantage here. Right?
So, but I think what it also started bringing out is the cybersecurity from a geopolitical aspect. Right. While people deployment is one angle, people are starting to look at, if this is the way that it can happen, what does it mean for us, for the products, for the supply chain that we have? What is that we can depend, not depend? What that risk mitigation strategies? What are those concentration risks that we have? I think they're all definitely looking into it. I think one way it is good for us. But if you're asking is in terms of what does it mean in terms of the international expansion?
Yes.
Our expansion at some point in time will get into North America. So the other markets that we are keen and growing, I think will continue to be what it is. So I don't see any major concerns there. But I think North America, we'll have to see, right? We'll have to see how it evolves, how the relationship between our two countries will evolve. It's too early for me to comment anything on that.
Okay, so we'll stay at that and we will wait and watch. And So now in the market where cybersecurity compliance and regulations are constantly evolving. right? So how, both in India as well as globally, how does Seqrite kind of stay ahead of compliance and influence the the policy advocacy, if I may ask so?
Yeah, I think one, regulations are definitely evolving, and I think sometimes it's good to have these. Otherwise, people might take different routes in terms of saying, "Yeah, I have cybersecurity posture." Um, so for us as Seqrite, we are definitely looking very closely all the regulations that are coming out, including the recent cybersecurity resilience framework from SEBI, right, which is pretty much applicable across all the certain cybersecurity guidelines for MSMEs. So we are looking at what is that we can be or put our story against what that regulations are. I think they are all talking about fundamental needs in terms of how do you keep your system secure and what processes you have in place to make sure that there is an auditability of what the practices that on the products that you put in place. So it's one way. We are looking at continuously and seeing what is that we need to refine in our reporting or other mechanisms to show, we are also there already there. But if you look at DPDP, that one way is also a compliance, right? So
Right.
We're also looking at what is that we could do from using our understanding on the product threat landscape, compliance requirements, and also starting that journey in terms of getting products which are more of compliance driven.
Right.
So we hope DPDP definitely will take off in that direction. One cool thing that we did in the DPDP is also the module around assessments. So a lot of time organizations spend understanding what this guideline, what these expectations are. And each of them have their own interpretations, and sometimes those are not auditable enough. They run in Excel sheets. They cannot afford large GRC systems. So I think with our assessment automation that is anyway required for DPDP, we also said, let's look at what a typical organization would require, whether it is from SEBI, whether it is AI that might be applicable for EU or RBI guidelines, or look at PCI DSS and see what is that we could bring in our assessment automation. That way, the compliance becomes a little easy for organizations rather than figuring out themselves or getting carried away, whatever everyone is seeing outside, right? That's one angle. The second angle is our idea is, SOC 2, ISO 27001, they all apply to us, right? So we definitely are very, very particular in terms of making sure whatever we are offering also goes through that rigor, not just preach, but also practice within our own setup.
So that's interesting to know. Now
that reminds one thing that it's not necessarily a compliance, but in when the 9/11 story happened, there is UN requirement in terms of identifying critical infrastructure in every country, right? Every country needs to have a setup which identifies what that critical infrastructure is and do the right controls in place to protect. So one of the things that came out across globe is setting up ISACs, Information Sharing Analytics Centers. So one of the popular ones is FS ISAC, which is based in US. Now in India, there is an organization called IDRBT, which is Reserve Bank of India setup, which is a thought leader in terms of the payment systems or the banking technologies in India, right? So we work very closely with IDRBT, offering our threat intel, which also provides an opportunity for banks in that ecosystem to do community threat intel sharing, right? So which in some way helps the entire banking ecosystem to be prepared a little more proactively than what they go through, each of them at individual attack level, right? So this is one of the mandates from NCIPC, which said, these are the critical sectors, and one of the critical sectors is obviously banking and financial services, to have a platform which does that information sharing in that community, and we provide that service as Seqrite to them.
That's great to know, actually. So now, Lalit, since we touched upon that, let's put our focus back home. Though we have already spoken about it, how do Indian enterprises, they view Seqrite's offerings as compared to global brands in terms, and where does Seqrite stand in terms, so are there any advantages or gaps that stand out when they compare? Because we have an Indian psyche, but you really brought it up in the beginning on one of our questions that in the conversations that right they look at they feel more comfortable working with an Indian brand. However, still since we have that penchant for international brands actually as an Indian, so where does where are there any gaps or advantages that stand out when they perceive or view Seqrite's offering as compared to the large global players that they're existing in the market today?
The inclination for Indian products is definitely growing, right?
Is it because of Make in India campaign or something, or is it the
Make in India campaign and the way the geopolitical ecosystem is changing, the way some of these, suddenly someone taking a call saying that, let me block Kaspersky being sold in that country. So as an example, right, let's not quote, a competitor, I would say, a competitor of our similar setup being banned in the country, right? So I think that is definitely changing some of the thoughts of Indian buyers. But it's not an easy thing because, sometimes the Silicon Valley as a brand itself carries, right? So I think I would say Pune, the city Pune has been definitely a prominent player in terms of building some of the best cybersecurity products in the country, right? Whether as a quick heal or a lot of, if you look at CrowdStrike, Qualys, Symantec, now Rapid7, I think a lot of them, their engineering setups are in Pune. I don't know if we were those providers to their employees or they give them the kickstart. I think the Indian organizations are definitely seeing Seqrite as a brand, right? They're definitely seeing as a brand because we've been doing some cool work, good work for the country. And some of the offerings are not anymore, while we started consumer, small, medium, but we're also saying, we have a data privacy, we have a malware analysis, we have a threat intel, which are largely large enterprise focused, right? So that is also changing some of the large Indian enterprises' perception of what we are as a brand. So I'm not saying that we are done. I'm not saying that we are already there, but we are definitely in the right direction of working with all kinds of segments in the country.
So just to go back to my question, so there are no gaps, so to speak. In terms of when it comes to the perception, actually, if I may say so. Yeah,
I think there are gaps definitely in the thinking, saying that India brand versus global brand, at least in some setups. But I think it's changing in the right direction.
Right.
And also they're starting to feel, have access to the product team, engineering team, support team locally, then go influence someone sitting in the Bay Area.
Absolutely. Yeah, that must be a stronger value addition, I'm sure. Yes. Okay. Now, with cyber threats evolving rapidly, Seqrite adapts. How soon, how early, or how quickly Seqrite's EPS solution, adapt to that and helps the customers, and what's the approach to a proactive security?
So the examples that I took on 0 day is definitely obviously in the direction of we being proactive before anyone in the world recognizes that there is a vulnerability in the setup. Right. So the work that happens in the engineering or in the research labs is definitely being more proactive than reactive. And the only way that you can stop attacks happening is when you're proactive, right? So we're looking at what are those things that we can do more and more. So we have patents, which definitely positions very uniquely and creates that advantage for us in terms of our detection protection capabilities, right? So also I think it's a cybersecurity is a very interesting domain where you need to protect your customers, but you also need to have a competition, and you also need to work with your competition, right? So we have a good ecosystem where we work closely with some of the large global cybersecurity players, right? So we all collaborate when it means in terms of how do we share what we are seeing in the ecosystem. I think who's catching first is important, who's more proactive is important, but we also need to make sure that the community is helping each other at the same time. We are able to differentiate. So I think we are able to collaborate only because they see a value in us, right?
Absolutely.
It's not one directional. So that tells the story in terms of how are we able to handle emerging threats. We were the report that you might find on Sindhur, or the effort that we are doing with IDRBD on IB card, is only because we are able to see the emerging threats much closer and faster before it really happens. So there is a lot of effort that's going in terms of proactive security.
That talks a lot. So it's a clear testimonial that you're staying ahead. Now, to close on a very forward-looking note, Lalit, let's talk about what lies ahead for Seqrite. From a CUPU perspective, what's the single biggest challenge that Seqrite faces today, and what will be the biggest opportunity that lies for Seqrite in the next 2 to 3 years ahead?
So, I'm a big fan of AML, but I'm also quite a bit worried about AML. Right. So I had a professor in my academic setup who used to say, AML is something like a sandbag. You beat whichever direction it takes that shape.
The double-edged sword.
So, but it seemed, it's a double-edged sword. So I definitely see it's a big challenge because the creation of malware, the way that the number of phishing emails that we saw, or the kind of deepfakes that are being created, is really bothering, concerning. It's not anymore human in being involved in attacks, right? It's machine to machine to machine, right? So, the attack is no different. I think that's definitely a concern. So, and I know we are not in the cryptographic space, but quantum, it's not. I was reading the other day article. It's not like a Y2K, right? It's not a defined deadline, but it can happen any day, any time, and you don't know when it is broken, what is broken. So, I think some of these emerging technologies is definitely something that's going in my mind. What does it mean for our customers, and how do we proactively work on this? But on the other hand, I also feel that's a great opportunity for us as a cybersecurity company, being ready for some of these challenges. So, we use extensively AML. Probably our journey on AML started almost 20 years back when Sanjay Katkar was sharing that one of the early ways that he used was around how do you categorize whether it is a URL or that is a good URL to use, or a bad URL to use, or a malicious URL to use. So, or not to use. So,
right.
AML is definitely an interesting space that we are actively exploring, and what is that we could do. Like the other one is just adding to that AML is obviously the data, right? So whether it is a DP Act, or if I say overall in the privacy space, and the way that data is transforming. So there are a lot of articles which says that machine learning models do not forget data, and if they do not forget data, and you have a privacy right says, I'm not your customer anymore. Now you don't need my data. How do you solve that problem? Right? So that's a good opportunity as well as a good challenge to have. So I think we are quite excited in terms of security, fraud, and privacy with data there. How my role will transform, and how the team and the organization will look at putting all these together.
Absolutely. Looks like a very challenging yet exciting road ahead. So yes, I'm sure there will be not a single day where your job, you'll find it monotonous.
Absolutely.
I'm absolutely sure about it. Thank you so much, Lalit, for this insightful discussion and sharing your valuable insights. It's always very fascinating and exciting to see how an Indian homegrown cybersecurity firm, is shaping up and not only coming up with innovative solution for the local companies, but making a mark globally. So it was a very, very delightful and interesting discussion where we came to know, how Seqrite is getting into that space and, they are making major breakthroughs in the cybersecurity space, especially in the enterprise cybersecurity space. Thank you so much once again to be a guest here on Cyber Nights. And we look forward to many more meaty discussions like this in future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much. And definitely a pleasure talking to you. And I think some interesting questions. So yeah, you definitely are very proactive or provocative, I would say, more provocative in terms of trying to get some numbers. But yeah, I think thank you so much for a lot of good questions.
The discussion was very engaging and definitely, as a journalist cap, we wear and we always like to know the curiosity is always there. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking out your time. Thank you.